is religious fanaticism a form of mental illness?
That's a good question.
Well, I personally would argue that it is. And I would go a step further and say that just being religious in general is a mental illness.
You could argue that somebody just has a mental illness and they use an avenue that they have to further that mental illness. Which religion could be used as that?
From the perspective of the fanatic, such things are generally not only logical and justified, but unavoidable in some cases. They don't just choose to be fanatical, they're compelled to be fanatical. The disparity between what a fanatic believes and what other people believe is the main concept in this film, Saint Maud. Directorial debut of Rose Glass. And what a debut it is.
Dear God, it takes nothing special to mop up after the decrepit and the dying. Can you feel that?
Yep.
But to save a soul, that's quite something.
I expected something way different than what this movie was going into it.
Me too.
I thought it was going to be like a religious sort of horror film. This is not really a horror movie, honestly. This is more of like a character-driven drama / like psychological thriller more than anything. This movie,
a slow burn.
Yeah, it is a slow burn and a very, very short running time, an hour and 20 minutes. Very short movie. Yeah. It's actually extraordinary how much Rose Glass was able to squeeze into that runtime. This is the story of a pious nurse who becomes dangerously obsessed with saving the soul of her dying patient. That doesn't even scratch the surface of what this movie is. We talk about depth a lot. This movie has so much depth to it. It was like astounding. This movie could be read in a variety of ways. I think it's an analysis of the interaction between like faith and self. It's about the life of a young woman who is suffering a severe mental breakdown.
Solitude and loneliness too.
I was just going to say,
drive you to those things.
It's a drama about loneliness. It's a story about possession, even for a moment or two. And it's also a tragedy about like the frailty of the human body. The story is told mainly from the perspective of our main character, Maud, who is played by Morfydd Clark. She is a newly reformed, fanatical Christian. She is sent to care for our other main character, played by Jennifer Ale.
Great actress.
Amanda is a former
ballerina.
I guess like performance artist, and a choreographer. And she is suffering late stage lymphoma. So she's dying. And Maud is like a live-in nurse and she's coming to care for Amanda. Maud is now a fanatical Christian when we meet her in the movie. But it's cool because the story makes room for the possibility that, however unlikely, that her fanaticism isn't mental illness at all. And that God really is communicating with her. And it's just like a really, I think, excellently crafted ambiguity that this film has, because it always plays with like both sides of the thing. A lot of it is like, well, no, she's clearly suffering some sort of like breakdown. Or is she? Like it always does that like during the film, which I thought was really cool. And it works because it's told through her perspective. For instance, there's a scene where she's questioning her faith and all of a sudden there's this monologue from God and he's telling her like, oh, I have something special for you. You'll know it when it comes, and this, that, and the other thing. But because it's told through her perspective, as the audience, you're like, well, wait, is God really talking to her or is she having a freak out? Like it's often hard to tell. So it never really like answers the question as to whether or not these things are really happening or if they're just happening in her head. And I thought that was really brilliantly done.
Yeah, it was. I wasn't sure what to make of this movie when it started. I wasn't sure what I was like, this is going to be like an occult, like we're going to get some demons and spirits and stuff. And then you're just watching this girl go through the rhythms of things. And then,
or are you?
Or are you? And then she has this moment with Amanda, and you're like, wait, okay, so there really is some supernatural stuff. And then Amanda later laughs at her and said, no, I didn't feel anything at all. Or did she? Because later in the movie, like she tries to put some holy water on her, and you hear a sizzle. And like she's got all these chemicals, and you're like, okay, well, is she gonna hit her with Leslie? You know, but it's just acetone and shit.
Was it acetone or was it holy water? That's the thing.
Right.
Or was the sizzle in Maud's head or was it not? Again,
right.
Because the movie's primarily told from Maud's perspective, it's really hard to know. And I guess if you're going through like a psychotic break, it's hard for you to know as well.
Is this happening? Isn't this happening? Is she experiencing this?
As the description states, she's pious, and piety is really the act of like self-mutilation as like a dedication to your God or whatever the fuck. She believes that mankind is amoral and like lustful and wicked, and that only can be saved by by way of like a savior or whatever. Throughout the film, we get little bits and pieces about her past, and what little we do get is that she once worked for a hospital where one of her patients died under her care. We don't really know the circumstances of the death, but there's a section where she runs into like an old coworker, and her coworker's like, "Oh, you're still a nurse?" Like they know what happened.
And you see a flashback where it looks like she's trying to do CPR and she just caves her chest in. Is that intentional or?
So personally, the way I took it was, I think it's clear that her past life, she was okay. So Amanda, our character in this, who's sick, dying of cancer, she is this like hedonistic sort of like party animal, which makes sense because she's living her last months, years. She's
enjoying all the vices of the human flesh before she kicks the bucket or can't.
She's drinking, she's partying, she's just doing whatever. There's some brief little hints to suggest that Maud lived a similar life prior to turning to Christianity. The pieces that I connected was her lifestyle led to her killing her patient, basically. Not maliciously killing him, but just like not being in the right headspace to care for another person. Like maybe she showed up drunk or something.
Self-flagellation, which was like some of the worst parts of the movie for me. Like,
towards the
end.
The
tax. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, that shit was fucked up. And it's like they show her like slowly walking around town and you like hear the squishiness of it. It was real bad. The movie really excels with its aesthetics. You've got the director directing the shit out of this movie. The cinematography in this movie was amazing. It's like murky and like there's really great use of lighting, which also helps to insinuate that maybe Maud is not being crazy, but that this stuff is really happening to her. There's a lot of scenes where she's like backlit and it looks like she has like a halo around her or like this sort of just like an aura. And the sound design was insane too. The movie's very slow paced. It's a very slow paced movie, but then all of a sudden you get this score that like is so unsettling and like really unnerving, and it just drags too when they do that. It like doesn't stop, and it's like it makes you uncomfortable because it's like it's a shitty noise to have to hear, and it just puts you in this situation where you're like, please just like make that stop, but it makes you feel crazy with her. So it really helps to like build that like that craziness where it's like, is this really happening? Like, what am I even watching here? Despite really nothing on screen being that like crazy. Like it's a pretty tame movie.
Yeah, no, it's very
apart from like a couple of little scenes that just make you uncomfortable.
Yeah, there's really nothing like overtly gory or just unable to.
Yeah, the movie is just aesthetically very jarring, I guess is the best word for it. I don't even really know like how to interpret the film, honestly, and I don't think we're meant to really. Again, as everything we've talked about, I just think it was like very clearly purposely done for you to not really have any sort of confirmation. Personally, given my personal beliefs, she is clearly suffering a severe psychotic break.
I think the portrayal of her as a saint, as far as like going through, like she struggled and then found God and become, like you said, pious and almost extremist, but probably extremist.
But wait, do you think we saw supernatural things take place in this movie?
Yeah.
Okay, that's like where the line is drawn. Was what we saw supernatural or was it not? And again, the movie is specifically built on that ambiguity. You're not meant to really know. My side of it personally is that no, that we're not seeing supernatural stuff. But of course, that's my own personal beliefs influencing that. But again, you're not meant to know, and that's I think why the movie's brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely. It doesn't make it easy for you to tell. Doesn't hold your hand.
I actually think this is one of the best like directorial debuts I think I've ever seen, or maybe I've seen in a long time, but maybe ever seen.
Yeah, it's a really good one.
Just brilliant movie.
Yeah.
I thought it's got a 6.7 on IMDb. I think that's actually low. I'm gonna bump it up. I'm giving this an 8.
Oh, an 8.
Oh yeah.
I give it. I bump it to a 7. I don't know if it's worth an 8.
Okay.
No, a 7. Yeah, Marvin
gave it a 6.5.
Now, he watched this movie before either of us, I think.
Yeah, he did.
And then he posted in our message board, you know,
Said
this movie
crazy.
is wild.
Yeah.
This movie is wild is what he said. And that's all he said.
I was really blown away by it. The guessing and questioning that I'm doing now didn't even happen till like after the movie. While I was watching it, I was pretty much like, oh, wow, like this is like, I was just pretty blown away by it the whole time. Like, again, the cinematography and the sound design really like stood out to me.
Yeah, the whole movie just puts you in a weird place. And then once you're done with it, you sit down and you start contemplating what you just experienced.